Welcome to the Blackout Show, presented by the Guillen Grid, a show about the Chicago White Sox baseball, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll debate what's working and what's not on the south side of Chicago. It's old school versus new school baseball. And most importantly, we're keeping all the receipts.
Yo, what is up, everybody? It's Gonzo here. With me tonight is Ozzy and Jr., Justin, Lee. Yeah, I was gonna say Jay Targaryen. I'm not gonna let you have your nickname that right off the bat like that, but as well as Elijah Evans from Just Baseball Media. Gentlemen, and specifically, I'm gonna go to you, Junior, first with this. We saw rumors from Nightengale that AJ Pierzynski can be a candidate coming here shortly this offseason. Spill the beans, Junior. Let me know what you can tell the people as far as what you feel that rumor to be true or not.
Me personally, I think AJ broke it down easier when they said that what he had a better chance of being the vice president of the United States or the Chicago White Sox manager, and he joked around and said that vice president. I think personally, I think AJ, if anyone can make the jump from the media, never having coached and being a big league manager, I think that he could do it. I think that he's better than a lot of guys that are doing it now. That's just my personal opinion on him. It's not an easy jump. You're always going to get guys that are fan favorites as favorites. But with AJ's kind of breakdown of what was going on, I think he was a bit surprised about the report itself. But I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think that anybody's a candidate at this point because it's a big window that you can fill. You're not trying to go from a guy that's won a lot of games. Pretty much anybody could be considered a candidate from no experience to experience. So I think that fans would be happy. I think that if he did get it, it would be like with any other manager. I think it would have to be a deal that has to be kind of more than 3 years, or see what he can do for 3 years, since this roster I don't think is going to be competitive in the point where playoff bound in the next 3 years. But I would like it personally. I'd rather it be him than a lot of other people. But I would be happy if it was AJ.
Okay.
Do you feel that with him being in the media right now, foul territory, that anything that he just said really affects things in a couple months here when those interviews go down with the guy that just negotiated at this deadline with Chris Getz? You think Chris Getz heard any of that and might hold that to close to him?
No, I think your personal decision or your thoughts on somebody's already been made even before he's making those points. And I'm going to be honest, man. If you are a general manager and you get your feelings hurt, regardless of who the general manager is, by somebody's comments or their take on baseball, then you're not the right person for the job. Because when you're a general manager, there has to be debate, there has to be arguing, there has to be back and forth. That makes the team better, and better ideas come out, better innovation, just a better organization. When you have everyone agreeing on everything and everyone's a big kumbaya, I think you get what you currently have in the Chicago White Sox. I think you need that conflict, different minds, different thoughts to bring the best of the organization.
And I'm gonna keep it short, and I want to pass it to Elijah, but I don't want anybody of White Sox past or ilk touching the team. Like, it's bad enough we chose the Royals as the template, and they just fumbled the division away to the Twinkies and the Tribe. So it's like, why are we picking out of these half-empty baskets? Why aren't we keeping our resources open? What say you, Elijah?
Yeah, I'm with you, to be honest, Justin. This is nothing against AJ. I mean, any of the other ilk, from the White Sox lineage. Like, there's some really smart people, especially from that 2005 era, of course. But like, I just want somebody totally external, personally. I think it's the next manager of this, and this is what I wanted before the Grafal decision, right? Like, I think the next manager of this team needs to come from an analytically driven organization, a younger guy, and someone who can just take this team into a new freaking generation. I'm just sick of it, really. I think that nobody related to the Royals, nobody related to the White Sox. Personally, if it's me, I'm going and checking out, the super young, savvy assistant guys in the Atlanta front office, in the Dodgers front office, and just going from there and just taking this team to a different, kind of era of baseball, because I'm really just kind of over the repeating of people within that are connected and gets his friends from the Royals and all these other different layers to it. Like, I think this organization is going to be much better off with a completely fresh start in terms of the next manager.
Yeah, we had a chance to do exactly that last year. We could have just gone ahead and took the easy way out. Give me Gabe Kapler, whatever money you want. Get on the laptop, get on the computer, because I don't know if you guys remember, the Giants were uber competitive with Gabe Kapler at the helm. He was at the helm, and the Giants were a competitive team. They used the analytics. They had less than medium talent. Like, they were literally the third best team in the division. They were cranking out 90 wins. He cares about the team. Gabe Kapler probably would have got ejected 40 times this year.
I mean, and it's not even like Kepler's an all right option. I think Kepler's a little bit of just an oddball in general. But I think, like, even guys like Matt Quatraro, who's the Royals coach now, like, the Sox had a chance the exact same time to go for a guy that was from an analytical organization like Tampa. They had an opportunity for him. And I'm not saying the Royals are great, but the Royals are, went from being worst team in baseball, 2 years ago to being borderline in a playoff race right now, right?
They're competitive as hell right now.
They're competitive. They're a very competitive team, and they're playing game. They're playing a more modern style of baseball, frankly, than the White Sox are. And that's something that I just think they need to just go totally external. I think AJ would do a good job. I agree with Junior. Like, I don't think AJ would be a bad coach. I think he would bring some fire. I think there'd be a lot of positives to it, but I just am on the side of just totally external for this next.
So here's the part with the external. There's never totally external. There's always somebody that knows somebody that worked with somebody. That's just the name of the game. Yes. My concern with this whole, I'm going to bring in an analytical manager. Okay, you need an analytics department. Fred Counsell, ask him how he's doing without the Brewers. Thoughts. The people giving him the lineups and telling him what to do. We've seen that story. So again, I think that the GM and the manager need to be on the same page. The White Sox decide to go more analytical. So be it. They try to have a mix. So be it. Whoever it is going to have the window of them being better is not going to be very hard to beat the previous regime. But I think it's whoever comes in has to develop and has to, again, be somebody that's there to build the future for them, regardless of if they're analytical or not.
Yes.
I believe every organization at this point is analytical. Tampa still has 0 rings. So if I'm going to look at somebody, I'm looking at everybody that made the playoffs. I'm looking at Phillies, Braves, Orioles, teams that have at least been competitive, that have brought back or have had really quick turnarounds. I would keep my options very wide open and talk to as many people as possible and not make it a 2-week process. If anything is to happen, again, who knows what's going to happen? If there's even going to be a managerial change at this point, just because of where they're at. So, but again, the AJ thing, I think, me personally, I think it wouldn't be easy for anybody just to jump in and manage. But I think if someone could do it and be really comfortable from a media standpoint, clubhouse, just the city in general, AJ could do it. I see no problem in doing that.
I'm hoping at least that someone with experience comes in. Ideally, I want someone with the passion for this franchise. And I mean, flat out, I want senior back.
You don't want more passion than Pedro has been able to give you. He tells you every day how much he's into it since day one. You need somebody that's not full of it, Gonzo. You need somebody that's not full of it, that's able to talk to the front office, tell them where their mistakes are at, tell them where they've messed up, tell them when they have a prospect that he's not a prospect. You need somebody with the words in Spanish with cojones, who's not scared of getting fired, who's able to push the envelope. That guy can come from anywhere, but he's got to find during the interview. You cannot have a yes guy. And when if it's bad, to let people know that it's bad, communication-wise, that is not scared to rock the boat and is a forward thinker. Because again, I believe that there could be a combination of a guy that's not that analytical, like a Bruce Bochy, Ozzie Guillen, and you can put guys next to him that are like just 100% analytical, coaches-wise, make the team better. There's a combination of things. What you cannot have is somebody that is full of it. That's the White Sox moving forward. They cannot be full of it. You gotta have somebody that's honest, and whatever the plan is going to be, just deliver on that plan. Just not stop selling smoke to the fan base, because at this point, I think it's just working against you than for you.
In an ideal world, sure. In an ideal world, I want Senior back, just for everyone, with Jerry, even Senior himself, put the egos aside and go after it.
His record doesn't want that. His record doesn't want that.
Here's your shot. Yeah, but you take the risk on the record for a second ring?
Hold on, bro.
You're a ring away. You're a ring away from Hall of Fame.
Second ring coming in 2029. The chances of getting one.
You respect Ozzie Guillen.
You're not going to be remembered for that record.
Bringing him back to manage this team will destroy his managerial legacy.
In this city, you're not remembered for your record. You're remembered for the championships.
So, I don't think this team is even in the process of talking about anything championship. Like, I think whoever manages this team next, whoever manages this team next, if nothing changes, if they get this team above 500, should be manager of the year.
Yeah, and Tony had a 500 team when he last left.
Yeah, but that team had a ton more talent, and it was a totally
a little bit.
It wasn't as much talent as you think, though.
It was a lot more talent than this team.
No, most of them are injured. He had to rely on Jake Lamb through stretches of that season.
Tony's record of 500
you mean Mercedes
was not a negative one of like, oh my God, how far have they dropped? It was kind of like your typical White Sox team of they were supposed to win a division, they had a bad month of baseball, they couldn't make it. Where it went from Tony to where it's at today, mind you, when Ozzie interviewed, they were interviewing they were interviewing to win a division. That interview, I talked to Joe Espada, Carlos Mendoza, Ozzie Guillen. All three people interviewed. All three people said that the interview was to win the division and go deep into the playoffs. Nobody interviewed of like, oh, rebuild and we're gonna have this. Everyone that interviewed. So unless they had a special interview for Pedro, I'm being serious. The interview was of, hey, you're competing. When Ozzie interviewed with the Padres job, it was we're winning. And AJ Preller, everything that he told Ozzie in the interview, he's actually delivered on. He's gotten players. Like now looking back and seeing like what he's done, everything he said in the interview for Ozzie of like what they were planning to do, they've done it. So there's different types of interviews. If you're interviewing for a team that's like, in the up and coming, like for this job, you can't go in there and say we're going to be in the playoffs in 3-4 years. Like the interview has to be different in that matter. So I think that moving forward, I think that's very important for Chris and everybody in the front office to, again, try to find not so much a great manager maybe in game, but more of like a development, because you're developing guys on the field and you're going to have to be able to pull wins with guys that you're developing. So it's going to be a great mix. And there's guys that are great managers that are able to do that. Buck Showalter's someone that a lot of people don't talk about, who's done it multiple times with building great organizations. He doesn't have a ring, and wherever he goes, he's been able to build a sustainability of winning down the road. So it's going to be interesting. Again, Ozzie would have that mindset going in because he's not dumb. He knows what it would take. But whoever comes in should not be thinking, oh, we're going to win the World Series. Like you got to take steps to get there.
Right. And ultimately, when I do say bring Senior back, but at the same time, you got to have a man that you're grooming to take over when Senior is done. Well, what's that look for?
Nah, I mean, like, I'm thinking right now, we don't have a culture or a fabric to help any new manager out. It's going to be 100% on their values, on what they deem is fit. I'm going to give you a prime example. Stephen Voigt is a new manager. Cleveland has DNA. So when Stephen Voigt needs to make a decision, he can rely on the track record and what Cleveland likes to do. That's why it was easy for Stephen Voigt to take advantage of Cleveland's bullpen, take advantage of the fact that they're not going to be throwing the ball around the field. Oh, and by the way, they got Josh Naylor and Jose Ramirez hitting in the middle of the lineup, so you can groom and place guys around them and not take a negative hit. This is all for a first-year manager. Let's go a little bit further east with Carlos Mendoza, who has a ton of payroll, but he was in charge with getting some consistency in the day-to-day operations for the New York Mets, making sure that the bullpen is aligned, make sure that you got a decent rotation enough, even with guys hurt, to where when it's time to get consistent and win for, let's just say, because they went on a 2-month stretch where they were absolutely killing. May and June, the Mets were on fire. And I think Carlos Mendoza laying the groundwork, getting consistent, and using some of the guys that he had in-house, that helped. Because you got to think, when the Mets caught fire, Starlin Marte was in the middle of that. Nobody that's in the lineup right now was there heated up when it was winning time for the Mets.
But that's what Elijah, I think,
don't have that DNA. They don't
I think that's
for anybody to fall back on.
That's what Elijah, I think, was trying to say when, again, whatever the identity is going to be of this team, if it's going to be more of like an analytical, a balance, an old school, whoever comes in. And again, this is something that everyone thought they were getting with Pedro. And I think that's been the biggest disappointment, because from day one, he was sold as this like off the field, everyone's dad, great mind, great communicator. And that has not even been close to that. Even the taking away the baseball moves. So you're with the White Sox right now. You are trying to even create a base of you're even more behind than most teams. Like when Ozzie came in 2004, Jerry Manuel had done a really good job of the core of the players knew how to play baseball. Okay. And he had to come in and kind of mix some things up and kind of take over and change the we're better than them kind of mentality. But there was a base. I feel like right now, there is no base. You're coming from 100% scratch to build that.
But it's not as bleak as it looks.
Though. Yeah.
I mean, not player-wise, though. I'm talking about just the culture.
I know what you mean, but I think, in my opinion, there is a better developing culture within the farm system than there has been in quite some time. And I know that doesn't mean anything at the major league level, right? But like it's I hear you guys and I get it, but also like at the end of the day, like the manager does have to create that, but at the same time, like, this roster is not a major league caliber roster. I think there's probably Luis Robert might be the only player on the entire offensive side of the ball in this roster right now that would start for any other team in Major League Baseball right now. Like, legitimately, there's a chance. So it's like, I get it, and the culture is going to have to happen, but at the same time, like, they got to continue to develop the roster to make it, more realistic for a manager.
That's 100%, bro.
I'll let you take it, Gonzo.
Yeah, because 2025 is going to be about seeing what core that you did get from assets previously. Yes. Once they come up, then you can start to say, all right, these guys hit it or not. These spots filled in. These spots are still left empty. Now we have a depleted payroll where we can start filling this in. And that's to go to say without even dealing Crochet and Robert, because you could have forced these trades and got limited value back and then still have these questions, but you kept them likely to see what you're going to get this offseason. And we're about to find out. But let's transition. Guys, going into this weekend, we had high hopes for the potential of two pieces to be moved with Crochet and Robert. Monday morning, we see reports from the agent of Crochet saying that Crochet was asking for an extension if he gets traded into the post, or he won't pitch into the postseason anything less than as a starting pitcher. And after that, things just exploded. Some teams just hung up the phone right off the bat. There's a couple teams still involved, even to the last minute, one of them being the Boston Red Sox. Let's get into it. This whole discussion of Crochet and the extension. of him in the postseason. I'll let you go, Junior. You're looking intense.
No, not intense at all. I think that what stopped the trade was the comments made about the extension and him not being open to throw in October right off the bat. I think that by making that comment, maybe half of the teams might have said, not getting involved in the mix. Again, I think that the advantage to the trade is on the White Sox, because if you didn't like the package that you got, you didn't have to give them up. And I think that's the situation where you're currently in, where they can keep the plan, whatever the plan that they keep talking about that they had, that Pedro Grifol keeps talking about. They have a plan. He can keep doing what he's doing and being one of the best pitchers in baseball, and they can still move him or extend him or do whatever they want to do, and didn't force their hand. I think that there might have been some offers on the table, but I don't think that Chris Getz and the White Sox believed that the offers were good enough for them to be able to pull the trigger. So I don't necessarily think that the White Sox lost because they still have their main guy and can move him later. I think that the only person that could have maybe lost is maybe Crochet, because he's gonna have to pitch for this team. But again, I don't know what the plan is for them, and maybe not pitch in the postseason. But again, that was never his plan at the beginning of the year to be moved. So I really don't think that with the Crochet situation, I just think it was the right offer wasn't there. I think some of the teams that might have been originally in it were like a little hesitant that they might have had to overpay for a guy that might not be pitching in October. So that's what I think.
So the way that I see it, if you don't, I agree with you. I think that's definitely part of it. The market was already complicated, right? Like you mentioned, right? Like his inning situation, his development track, like all of these factors already had this market for him being extremely complicated before he even made the extension request, right? So it's like you were going into this deadline, the way I saw it, with max 4, maybe 5 teams. I believe, and my thought from months ago was that the only teams that had the farm system, the flexibility, and the need to actually swing a trade for Crochet and the ability to take that risk was the Dodgers, the Orioles, the Padres, the Phillies, maybe the Yankees, maybe one or two others. But in terms of like legit prospects, have the need and have the financial and team roster risk to be able to do that. After their extension thing, it took out the Orioles. It became very clear they were going to go with the cheaper pitching options, avoid giving up their blue chip prospects. They didn't want to deal with an extension. They're out of the running. I think the Padres were out of the running simply because of their farm system, and on top of the fact that they needed to go with something that was a little less risky, given they have 2 of their best pitchers on the shelf right now. I think there was nothing happening if it wasn't the Dodgers, maybe the Phillies, maybe the Yankees swing a big deal, maybe. At the end of the day, I don't think anybody outside of those 3 teams was even in the race after that extension. So like, sure, the extension request and the demand, whatever you want to call it, changed the market, but I really don't think it changed that much. A team like the Dodgers, a team like the Phillies, if they were in on Crochet initially, they'd be in on Crochet still and be okay giving him an extension because those teams dish out money like nothing. So at the end of the day, like, I don't really think it changed that much. I think it limited the market a little bit. In the offseason, a guy that has 2 more years of arbitration at $3 to $4 million, whatever it's going to be, he's going to go up a ton from 800,000 this year, right? But even if he's $5-6 million in his next 2 years of arbitration, or in that range, right, the market opens up so much more. So at the end of the day, if those big time teams were not willing to give that trade package right now, it's the right decision to hold. And you just said that too, Junior. But it's like they don't. There's no need to do that. And there's no need to force a trade for the sake of saying, oh, look at us, we were a big seller, we sold. And I think this national perspective of like the White Sox missed this huge opportunity, like, yes, but the combination of his situation and his innings, in addition to the extension request, like, there was not a market there. And it's like in the offseason, you can get some small market teams involved because he's not going to be that expensive. So some teams that are smaller markets that don't necessarily have to extend him are going to enter that mix. And you're going to get 8 to 10 teams probably seriously bidding on him this offseason. And they're going to limit the heck out of his innings down the stretch. I think he's going to get a piggyback. My guess is that starting next week or the week after, maybe they're going to have one of the minor league starting prospects that's ready on hand, kind of piggybacking him every start. I think he'll go 4 or 5 innings tops every start. And then you'll have a minor league starting pitcher that's ready to finish the rest of that game and kind of do a double starting pitcher type of thing. That's my guess, but we'll see. I just think I think ultimately it was the right decision given the market.
Look at the starting pitchers moved. Eflin, Fetty, like the market is telling you right now, I'm not paying an iron price for somebody who's gonna have to be locked into my future. And I'm on the fence because I think they missed the opportunity to get the haul, but at the same time, I'm in a situation in fantasy sports right now where I'm only a couple games better than the White Sox. I have assets that are to be sold, right? In the logical world, I have assets to be sold, but I'm not just going to take any deal. So I think the White Sox probably could still get extremely good value waiting until the winter, because now you got all the sharks biting at the same bait without worrying about him pitching in the postseason. Like, it'll be spring training and then how you doing for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Until Chris Getz proves me otherwise, I'm going to say he's worse than Rick Hahn.
God damn it.
So when I say that, we can all have this hope that he's going to negotiate, which we feel like is true for the value of Crochet, but he hasn't negotiated to value yet. We saw what was given up for Cease. We saw what was given up for Fetty.
Wait, can we stop acting like the Cease package was bad? I don't get that.
Yeah,
why are we acting like the Cease package was terrible?
It was awful.
All right.
Because he set the bar. Junior, you're muted, Junior.
Wow, you're Gonzo tonight.
I am Gonzo. I'm saying you're too. I think I am Gonzo. I think it's too early to say this was a horrible package.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Same thing
high
with
road,
Fetty. I mean,
but like I don't know. Again, that's just we can judge 2 or 3 years and look back and say, and again judge the trade. But I don't know. But
I'm saying I shouldn't have. When it comes to that value, I shouldn't have to question it right off the bat. With what he set, with what he set the bar at, he set back in October. We're starting at 2 prospects in the top 100, and he pushed that to 3. And you only, at the end of the day, once we saw the whole manipulation of the offseason with the clients, with Boras and everybody, when spring training broke and all the arms were going down, and then it flared up again, and then we ended up with 1 prospect in the top 100. And I know Junior's guy, Hyro, he was borderline, but that's all we got. And for me, that's not good enough. Again, I might have some bias in there, but I feel like a guy with that caliber of an arm, you should get more than that. And that brings me back to what I was just saying. Like, we're at a point where he's going to have to prove it. And I don't, at the deadline that we just saw with 2.5 years of control, you saw what the Dodgers gave up for Flaherty that had only a second half to give. And they weren't top 100, but they were 2 very promising prospects in Lariano and Sweeney. Now, hold up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, before you get into Flaherty, I just lost my train of thought there for a second.
Sorry.
Come on, Grandpa.
Fuck. What was I going to say?
My bad, man.
It'll come back to me. Go ahead. It'll come back to me.
I was just saying, Flaherty's a guy that's thrown 100+ innings, 5 times in his career, right? So it's like, I get it. Like, yes, but go ahead.
Before you go on with that deal. Sure. So the other thing that was on the table,
I hope you're not driving,
which is what Garfine was talking about, was more so Gordo, because Beckham has his source with Getz. Gordo mentioned that what was on the table was a deal that with the Red Sox at the last minute was still there, was Crochet and Benintendi for 3 prospects. And they eat the contract of Benintendi. I don't know what those prospects were.
Nah.
But that's very enticing. Situation.
I guarantee you those prospects were nothing. You would have been even more upset than you were.
You would have been pissed.
Deal or other things, because you don't attach that. You cannot take your valuable assets and attach burning contracts to them just for the sake of getting rid of those contracts. That is in my opinion, that's like one of the biggest mistakes a GM can make, because you have to maximize the prospect return there. And
it sounded like it wasn't just a toss in. It sounded.
I'm not saying it's a toss in, but like.
Saying.
If it's not the Red Sox system right now, the way their system's laid out, if it's not one of those top 3, it would have looked like a horrible deal.
They're red hot right now, competing in that division to go all in with the way they're set up.
But they don't. But the Red Sox,
if you're that aggressive,
splash to improve the ball club. The Red Sox got a problem with depth more than talent.
They could use a piece or two for sure, but
yeah,
especially an arm,
an
arm.
Yeah, but they could use an arm.
You got to think the Red Sox. Craig Breslow has been telling you we're gonna stay competitive with our DNA. We're not all in on a World Series. The first move we made was James Paxton. That should have told you everything you need to know. Like, depth is more important than raising the ceiling of the entire ball club. Especially when you just paid Rafa.
They got Paxton because they know the deal that they were orchestrating with the Sox were on the table.
Come on, bro.
I don't think the market was there. The Red Sox were a dark horse. I literally mentioned them the morning of the trade deadline and was like, oh, this is my dark horse team for a Crochet trade last minute. But like, I don't think there was a deal there. I think
they were in a bigger market
extremely
for
underwhelming.
Luis Robert or Andrew Vaughn than
I don't know about
Crochet.
that. No, I think they were in on Crochet. I believe that. At the end of the day, like, I get what you're saying about wanting to see the value come, but like, if this whole kind of narrative of just like this deadline sucked, it was a total failure, whatever. Like, I get it, but at the same time, like this deadline is not. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Like what they move, like when they move a Crochet or a Robert, that's the judgment we're gonna have to make, right? Yeah. But like right now, this is not this. Ultimately, with what they move, this wasn't a subsequent, like an actual, subsequential like deadline. Like it really wasn't.
I don't know.
I liked what Elijah. I liked what Elijah brought up. That in the offseason, there's going to be other teams that are not in the hunt
for both of them.
If you're trying if you're trying to build again on the offensive side or on the pitching side, any team that's trying to get better, from Cleveland, Kansas City, the Tigers,
Pittsburgh,
the Nationals,
Cincinnati,
everybody that's like the middle of the road. Okay, not your top team, the Cubs. Okay, yes. What can you get from the Chicago Cubs that are looking for a huge bat to come and help, or an ace in a pitcher? You're opening up yourself to a conversation now where right now there might be about maybe 5 to 14, maybe 6 that are willing to just go all in and do something crazy. If you wait because you didn't get the package that you wanted, now in the offseason, you have more time, more deals to make. I completely agree that the Red Sox were in, meaning that they wanted to screw the White Sox on that deal. Because if Chris had taken that deal, it wouldn't have not necessarily been a good deal. It would have been a great deal for the Red Sox, but for the White Sox, meaning I gave up money for 3 prospects plus my arms. The prospects cannot miss guys. If I'm giving up that money because it's already money that I'm buying.
Red Sox
I'm already paying that money, especially when money's coming off the books. I'd rather just DFA the guy if that's the case. If I'm worried about money, when Elijah just said it, when you attach money for players to dump money for prospects.
Yeah, but you're getting the cheap control of Crochet regardless. So
yeah, but I'm saying the prospects.
I feel like the value. I feel like the value is still there regardless.
Yeah, but the top 100 list that you keep talking about, Gonzo, you keep talking about the top 100 list. You're saying that the Cease trade was bad because there was not enough top 100 guys. So in the Red Sox organization, they don't have the prospects to get that return unless they gave you the first top 3 guys that they have, which I don't think they would have.
No. And I'm saying he started the bar at 2 prospects in the top 100.
Also, like my opinion, like one of the things I really have this been driving me a little bit crazy this deadline, because I've been doing coverage not just for the Sox. I'm looking at every single prospect for the work I do, like every single deal made this deadline. People got to stop looking at the pipeline thing and just making every single assumption on a trade based on a top 100 list. I mean, for the love of God, please stop. I'm telling this to every fan listening. Like, there is so much more that goes into prospecting and understanding 19-year-old, 18-year-old players than a basic prospect list that doesn't get updated every 4 months, right? Like, come on, people.
When I'm hitting you up in the DMs, who was I pissed about?
Which part?
About prospects that was in the top 100.
Sure.
Who was the what was the first? You can go back in their DM and tell me who was I first pissed about.
I don't even remember. You got to tell me. Who are you thinking of? Yeah, Klassen's a super talented guy, not in the top 100, very talented. But like this,
and we can go through those deals.
By the way, you know who was not in the top 100? Fernando Tatis Jr. He wasn't in the top 100.
There's so much more that goes into it. And at the end of the day, like top 100 too, like I think Pipeline's top 100 especially is like the worst of every major outlet. I think there's just so many better, smaller level outlets that do a much better job with prospect stuff. And then like, I get that's not, I'm not saying that's like, it's an all encompassing thing, but it's just, you have to look beyond the number and this ranked player in this system. Like it's not that simple. Right. There's so much more that goes into it. And it's just, it's tough, but.
There's prospects there to be desired for that are really promising guys that are really deep in those team rankings themselves. And if you want to go back to the Fetty thing, but before I continue, I just wanted to say that for me, I don't think it gets better because of where the control was for Crochet. And to this point, I haven't seen Getz be able to negotiate it to where I feel okay with allowing this to go to the offseason, because we were saying the same thing about Cease last offseason. Do we allow him to go to this deadline, or do we trade him this past offseason because of the control and the teams involved with the amount of teams able to negotiate for him before going into the season? I've yet to see it with Getz. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish I didn't have to say that statement that I did in the beginning, saying I believe that he's worse than Hahn, which that kills me to say that, because I thought we were over this. I thought there was a lot more promise than this guy coming in that had experience in the big leagues. To see the talent, I think he sees the talent. I'm not sure if he's able to negotiate, because the business world is another monster in this with everything involved.
And we'll see, right?
So, do we have any concluding thoughts before we move on to the deals, Justin?
No, it's just puzzling to me, because out of all the pitchers moved, like Crochet has the least amount of track record. The amount of questions you're gonna have to ask once you sign the deal. Is he gonna hold up next year? Am I gonna use him in this pennant race? Like, all of those questions right there would stop me as a GM from giving up a top 10 prospect in my system. Like, and I just want to touch on the Cease trade. We got Sammy Zavala right now, who has the eye of a major league player. He only needs the at-bats. He has the eye. Like Elijah, when I see him, I see the Twins prospect, Emmanuel Rodriguez. There's a lot of comparisons. I'm telling you, they have similar traits. They don't have a similar box score, but they have similar traits. And if we could put him in a position to where we can groom him and get him in a major league uniform, that'd be a plus. Even if it's an everyday role player, I think you could win with a guy like Sammy Zavala. You've seen teams win with guys like Adam Eaton and stuff like that. Like, you don't have to be the best player on the team to be successful. All we could ask for is guys that could build up 2025, 2026, when we're molding into that competitive roster. Who's going to be left? Because I just want to say, Elijah, you hit it on the head earlier in the show. Luis Robert is the only major league bat we probably got in this lineup, like concrete. Like, Vaughn's good. He's a professional. But as far as a calling card, Luis Robert is all we got left. Like, it got to start from somewhere. You got to do the groundwork, getting guys that dig into the box. I think Sammy Zavala is a good guy to dig into the box going forward. E-Man was probably a reach. I'm sorry. Was
a little bit, but I hear you.
A little bit. Go ahead, Gonzo.
I feel like, if I was an opposing GM, I would love to have had to reach out to the White Sox to take advantage of the agent's mistake, because the agent wants to get today's price on him right now, instead of vice versa, waiting the next 2 years for his value to truly jump from, let's just say, 35 million to begin the extension to what it will be in 2026, maybe in the 45 to 50 million range by the time we get there. So if I'm that GM, I'm saying, all right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to trade for him, because I'm giving up the assets to get him. I'm going to trade him and extend him then and there to get that value for him at today's price than tomorrow's.
What's his price, by the way? Let's just throw that out there. What do you think they were asking for on a yearly basis?
20 the money. I think
like
I think you're buying out. I think it would have been probably around buying out the next 2 years of ARB around 10, and then the beyond years of ARB around 20 to 25 is my guess. Yeah. I think it probably would have been. It would have been something with the 2 years of arbitration being, assuming that's about 20 million. I think would have been something around 4 for 70 or so. 4 for 65, 4 for 70. It's probably my guess.
I think you're right because I think 35 is the very high end of it. But I think it's anywhere from 25 to 35 in that range.
For the post arbitration years, I think the arbitration years would have been buying out at about 10 or so. I think is my guess, considering he's going to be only around 3 or 4 probably next year. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I ultimately I was hoping to. I'll wrap on this on the Crochet thing. Like I was hoping to see him get traded, but I think given the market and given every other indication of the market that we got from other trades, it was the right decision to hold to the offseason, in my opinion.
I could come up with a good trade package from the Dodgers without using top 100 guys. If that's what Junior wants to think that I focus about. Camp? No, because even when, Elijah, when you go back to that Flaherty deal, and I was listening to the Chuck pod, and they were focused on Sweeney. Sweeney wasn't the headliner of that deal. They didn't understand
by far.
They didn't understand the catcher Lorenzo because and this is how I saw it. And the Dodgers have made this pretty present in their thinking too. Was Lorenzo's their top catcher right now, and that's rushing. That's over rushing and Carteret.
Rushing, I just think it's good. I mean, if you're talking defensively, sure. I think rushing is still a better prospect. I just think rushing is assumed to move to first base soon, which Lorenzo's not.
Yeah, I think it's over. But I think what they're saying was overall, because January they were pushing him, the talk of him completely over.
Oh, for sure.
Too.
I mean, yeah, Cartaya's fallen off a cliff, so it's definitely not Cartaya. And Lorenzo was, I mean, again, Lorenzo was probably the best prospect overall in the entire deadline that was moved. Maybe, I mean, I think other people have seen different things. Maybe Snelling if he bounces back, but generally speaking, I think that's probably the best prospect moved. And it's like, I get it, but like, it just, I don't think the Dodgers were giving a package that the White Sox need. For me, if Crochet is getting moved, it needs to start with Josue DePaula, and I don't think they were moving him. So I'm just, that's where I'm at with the Dodgers package. I think that they would have given, if they were going to trade for Crochet, it would have been one of those 4 solid prospects types of deals. And ultimately, like, you need some guys that you see upside, superstar talent with. And I don't think the Dodgers necessarily, as deep as that system is, there's not a lot of guys in that system I'm penciling as superstar upside, which is tough because you need that type of upside for at least, 2 pieces in a Crochet trade, right? I'm not saying they have to be right now putting up the numbers of superstar, but like you have to have at least 2 guys in that trade that have star upside type of profiles.
Yeah. For me, I started DePaula. And that's the only guy that's at that range that would be 100. Then I'm ducking down, which is where the value I feel is. And I'd start off at Jackson Ferris. And then I would go to Zahir Hope. And then Emil Morales.
That's the Dodgers. I guarantee you, if you offer that trade to the Dodgers at this deadline, they are slamming the phone and saying, talk to you later. Goodbye.
I don't think so. Where's Emil Morales? And he's 19, 22-ish.
Rankings don't matter.
And their team rankings or whatever. But for a guy like Crochet, they saw what Crochet did to them right in their face.
I hear you. I don't think that's a deal they're taking. But
Jay, so I know why Gonzo likes Rick Hahn more. Rick Hahn got more ranked guys. Better ranked guys. Would you rather have? Did you think Moncada panned out and Kopech? They were 1 and 2 in Major League Baseball prospects.
But I'm not saying ranked guys right now. The guys just
brought up. Yeah, he's not. Only DePaul is the only guy that you've been talking about.
And I just said that like seconds ago. I know, Junior. I know you don't look at any of the rankings at all to understand the names. But I just said the only name that was in that top 100 was DePaul, and that's where I start off and go all the way down. Because my value is deeper in their system. And same thing if I were to go to, Seattle for what I was hoping for with Robert, I'd be going all the way down to, I'm trying to pull both Farmillo, or is it Farmelo? Johnny Farmelo.
Yeah.
And then Braden Garcia.
Yeah.
2 19-year-olds are just promising guys. But yeah, I mean, we're getting to the nitty gritty. And I want to get to the nitty gritty of the trade deadline since we're in the middle of talking about it. Let's just start off with the 3-team deal that we saw with Dodgers getting Kopech and the player to be
Tommy Edman.
Oh, that's right. They got Edman. Cardinals got Pham and a player to be named from
Fetty.
the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And Fetty. And then the White Sox got Vargas and Oliver Gonzalez, right?
No, the Sox get
Harlan,
Joral
Hello.
Perez and Alexander Albertus and Miguel Vargas. Those three. So two 19-year-olds. And I mean, do you guys want my brief take? Because I think it's. I mean,
where did Oliver Gonzalez go?
Dodgers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Two middle infielders, right?
Yeah. So I
Two
mean,
kids.
this trade is going to be like everybody's looking at this trade, and nationally everybody's saying, oh, the Sox got undervalued. And like, I agree with that. Let me be clear. Like, I do agree this was an undervalued deal for the White Sox in comparison to what other starting pitchers got in this market. When you look at what Yusei Kikuchi got, when you look at what Flaherty got, right? Like Fetty, clearly there was people more nervous about Fetty, but they also, they sold lower than I think they should have. With that said, this isn't like, in my eyes, this is not some like horrid, terrible fleece that people are making it out to be. And I get why people see that and think that, because again, the rankings and all this other stuff, right? Like, there's no blue chip prospect, right? But like, if you told any White Sox fan a year ago that the White Sox were going to sign a dude out of Korea for 2 years and turn him into Miguel Vargas, who at the time last year was a top 50 prospect in all of baseball, anybody would have been ecstatic. So I get right now you're looking at it as like, oh, Fetty's having such a great season. Vargas has had a rough first year to his major league career, right? Like, oh, this seems like undervalue. At the same time, like, you're getting a guy that was a very, very high-end prospect. I don't care where he was ranked, but like a guy that was considered to be a future core piece for the Dodgers just a year ago, has been mashing all season in AAA, has looked solid, better at bats in his major league stint this year, hasn't even gotten everyday at bats yet, right? The defense is a question. You're going to have to figure it out, but a guy that could be an all-around everyday type MLB player. In addition to that, you're getting two 19-year-olds and two guys that, you know, were high-level international signings, right? Like Joral Perez is a guy that I'm a huge fan of his. He was on my list of players that I would want from the Dodgers when looking into the trades initially, like when I started doing some research in this spring and you know, into the season of like, if Robert or Crochet, like, who are some of the guys you want that are the young pieces? Joral Perez is the type of guy that I wanted. I had my eye on him for a while. I like his swing a lot. He's really good at pulling the ball for such a young hitter at 19. His approach is extremely good. Clearly there was a target for approach here too. Like, that's one thing I think people need to take notice of. Like, the White Sox have ID'd a problem with, you know, a lot of the bats in the system and in the team right now that have zero plate approach and zero ability to generally recognize the zone and work counts better. All three of these guys are very advanced approaches, especially two 19-year-olds being guys that have both walked more than they struck out in rookie ball. They've done that. Perez has continued to really, both these guys this year have had consistently good on base percentages, right? I'm not saying they're superstars. And the issue here that I think a lot of people see, and that I see as well, right, is like, there's not a superstar type player here. None of these players have the upside of like a star player. But at the same time, I think Joral Perez has the upside of a guy who could be an everyday second baseman and hit you 20 home runs every year and walk a ton too, which is a pretty valuable player to have, honestly. And Albertus obviously is injured right now, but this is a guy who, you know, also very advanced approach. I like a lot of what I've seen from him. His in-zone whiff rates are incredibly good. He barely whiffs,
especially with that leg kick too.
Yeah, the leg kick is there. So like, you don't have he's been a contact oriented guy with Albertus, right? But like, has the ability to tap into more power. He's the type of guy who I think with his swing and the way he kind of coils, he could really generate a lot of power. He just hasn't gotten the swing to the point where he's lifting at this point. It's a lot of, you know, ground. It's still a pretty high ground ball rate for him, right? So I think both these guys are at least intriguing to me, especially Perez. I really do like Perez. He was on my radar for a while, actually. I saw him in Arizona this past spring in some backfield stuff, and I was like, this guy's one of these young Dodgers guys that we should keep an eye on. So I really do like, I don't dislike these players. The deal was one player short. That's the issue, really. I don't see it as like the White Sox got bad players. I don't view it that way. I view it as there was a piece missing, especially with the Cardinals being able to get Fetty for Tommy Edman is crazy to me. There should have been a piece coming from the Cardinals to the White Sox in this trade. That's the big issue I see here. I don't think the Dodgers actually did that well, to be honest. I think Tommy Edman's like a total, I don't think Tommy Edman's very good. I think Tommy Edman's versatile, which fits the Dodgers' need, and he's fast, but he's a career 720 OPS guy. Like, he's not a guy that's going to hit that much. He just fits a Dodgers need because he can play all over the field. And Kopech, they'll turn into a stud because of course they will, but he didn't really have that much value. It is what it is. Kopech, maybe you should have traded separately because the reliever market was so crazy. Pham is negligible. He was worth nothing. I think people that are trying to make it seem like Pham was like a huge bonus add-on is like, he was worth pretty much nothing. I really don't think he's worth much. But I think the deal was one piece short. That's my initial assessment, and that's where I've gotten over the past few days of looking into these guys. Like, I like these prospects, and I think Miguel Vargas will be one of the better hitters in the White Sox lineup for, the rest of this season. And I think both Joel Perez and Albertus are going to have, some good development tracks. I like a lot of their traits. It just, there should have been one more prospect coming from the Cardinals to the White Sox in this trade.
The first time I seen Miguel Vargas, he hit a ball damn near 500 feet, and then he breaks his hand, right, and comes to spring training, and he was living on base without swinging the bat. He was literally walking in the box, standing there for 5 or 6 pitches, and walking to first base. Like, that's the type of approach and eye that the White Sox need. Now, just like you said, Eli, these aren't really ceiling guys. These are guys that you're going to put in your 1 through 9. Go get them, kids. Like, that's all you could really ask for. You're not trading prime Javier Vasquez and Eric Fetty. You literally picked him up overseas and got some value. Tommy Pham was a journeyman before he even got to the fucking White Sox, and you still was able to have the Dodgers sprinkle in a little bit more. Like, I wasn't looking at the deal. Gonzo was blowing up the fucking group chat at 2 and 3 in the morning, pissed because he felt like we got undersold. And listening to you, I'm thinking like, yeah, the Cardinals could have threw something else in. Like we, like every other organic
cash
fan, we was just okay. All right, whatever, just okay with the trade. But diving back in, you're thinking like, maybe these 19-year-old, maybe I needed another Miguel Vargas from the Cardinals. You know what I'm saying? Because you're gonna have.
You weren't getting another Vargas, but yeah.
No, not Miguel Vargas, but somebody that I can rely on.
A flyer.
Yeah. Yup. Lace up the cleats. Come on. Because at the end of the day, Elijah, the last time you was on this show, you told us about a guy named Brooks Baldwin. I remember that. And Brooks Baldwin was everything we wanted in AAA. You get called up and you look at the White Sox, there's nothing around him to where we could see the best out of him. Like, he's stuck at second base. You're not going to see him move around and bounce around the diamond. There's no lineup to where he got protection. He's going to be on base to showcase the wheels. Like, he had the game where he had a couple doubles, a couple walks. But this is the stuff we're talking about. Like, this isn't a major league roster right now. And you're not going to trade Fetty and Tommy Pham building that. And the White Sox actually went backwards, not getting that extra player from the Cardinals. I didn't think about it until you and Gonzo brought it up right now. It's wild.
Yeah, but like the situation is with this deadline, and I'll let Gonzo go after this, but like this, if you're not moving Robert and Crochet, this deadline wasn't going to change much. The system is not worse. Like they added talent, right? The system is also not much better, right? Like it's if you're not moving those two pieces, there was nobody else on this team that was getting you anything farm system or franchise altering, right? Like you can say Eric Fetty's had a good season, and he has, but Eric Fetty was not getting you anything that significantly changes the outlook of the franchise. Like, that's the reality of it. So here we are, a week after, 2 days after the deadline, right? The team's in a similar place as before the deadline. Okay, cool. Like, I'm cool with that, right? Like, it's not going to change the way that this next season goes. The rest of this season is about developing anyways. And same with next season. The next year and a half is about developing the current players and continuing to stockpile more talent. They added some talent at the deadline. They probably should have got one more player from Fetty. Okay, cool. Let's move on. I mean, that's where I'm at.
Miguel Vargas, I knew him because we actually considered him to reach out to him to play winter ball.
Yeah.
Because when you look at what a player's done in AAA, meaning he's already accomplished AAA, meaning his development now is just big leagues. If you put him back in AAA, he's going to kill it. That's why we wanted him for winter ball, because the league is between AAA and the big leagues, and we thought that he would be a versatile player that could play, different positions, but his bat has been pretty good in AAA. So just like Elijah just said, the White Sox added another body, somebody else to compete for a position. And he might give you a couple options. He's not going to be the greatest defender, but if his bat starts hitting, we've had worse guys defending. So I think that in the return, I guess, I was okay with, I can understand the extra guy, but for signing a guy that came from Asia that you didn't really know much about, to be able to flip him, that the guy pitched well, to be able to flip him, and you're able to add bodies. to the development of the future. It's awesome because again, everyone's gonna have to compete for a job, and you don't know who can go down at any moment. So I think that again, I don't think it was a complete loss. I wouldn't give it an F like a lot of people were out there. I think that it was a move. That it was.
You see people give this trade a F?
Oh yeah,
A
there
lot
was
of
people
people
that were
have
going.
been.
A lot of
All
people
of
were
national
mad.
media.
Yeah, they were not happy about it because again, they're looking at Vargas's big league numbers and
Right.
and again the situation of where they're at. And again, people thought Pham had it. I will keep. I know we got to jump to the next topic, but it was weird that the Cardinals did not have anything to give up. That's why I say the trade was 2.5 because it's usually equally. Everyone has to equally move players around, and I don't know how Mozeliak got away with it. Again, he's been doing this for a long time, but he pulled a fast one on them. Because they didn't have to give up an extra body. But I think from a trade deadline, I think that the team is in a better position today for the future than they were before the deadline. That's just my final take on that one.
Yep.
Gonzo is that a look of wait, Gonzo? Is that a look of content for the first time tonight?
No, I'm just like meh.
Fuck.
I'm just like meh after this deadline because when you go from last year with Hahn selling all the assets and getting that value back, and then you're looking at this deadline with the pieces that you had with starting with Robert and Crochet, and you end up keeping both of them, and then you turned. For me, I was beyond pissed because it went from Crochet's extension chaos to this Fetty deal like that, and I was just like, oh my god, like this is an absolute nightmare to watch. And then when I saw the Fetty deal, I was waiting for what if there was going to be another prospect coming from the St. Louis side, and I'm just waiting, and I'm like, this can't be it. I mean, if you think about it, yeah, you can go with the whole like Korean like pathway of this whole deal. But at the end of the day, Fetty came into this season with that sweeper that he turned into a 4.6 WAR this season, and we saw what Kakichi at 0.2.
Kikuchi.
Who was
Kikuchi.
I'm sorry, but anyway, I could give a fuck because it's 0.2 WAR that I'm talking about, and we're talking about Houston giving Blossom, Luperfido.
But also Gonzo, like I yes, but one of the things I tried to point out after that trade is like systems are not built the same. So like Houston's package, like everybody's like, oh man, we got 2 of the top 5 Houston prospects. Luperfido wouldn't even be a top 15 prospect in the Dodgers system, right? So it's like I get it and I get the frustration, and also like, do the White Sox want 3 25-year-old prospects? Like, no. Will Wagner's 26 in AAA. Luperfido's making his MLB debut at 25,
but
and Jake Bloss is the exact
last minute.
Yes,
Luperfido.
You're right. But Jake Bloss is also the same level of a pitcher as like 16 different guys in the White Sox system right now. So like I get it. I hear you out on that. But at the same time, like the people that were making it seem like, oh, the Astros got a better deal for Kikuchi than the White Sox got for Fetty. I just don't believe that personally. And I don't believe that it fits the White Sox needs in any way in comparison.
No, but still, I'm still missing the value of Fetty in this.
I agree.
Deal.
Like I said, there's a player missing.
And I know you said that originally, but for me, that's a big deal. Who that person should have been, because that could be the difference of me saying.
Because who, like, what? If you're
I don't know, because I don't know which team are we dealing with, the Dodgers or the Cardinals? The Cardinals, right?
Because the Dodgers didn't give. They gave up plenty for Edman and Kopech, frankly. So if it's the Cardinals, like, what do you like? What makes this deal feel good to you? Like, what piece from the Cardinals?
I think we had this discussion too, really brief.
Spit it out.
Because I think I asked you.
Like, does Travis?
Was it Cooper?
Does Travis Honeyman do it for you? Cooper Jerpy? Is that what you're saying?
Was that Jerpy?
I don't think they're giving up. I don't think they would give up Jerpy in this deal. I think that's a little rich to try and get a first rounder who's pitching. Really
that's
well
why I'd be focused. Like, I don't need the third team in.
What about Thomas?
Let me focus on one organization here.
But the Dodgers, that wasn't the case though. I mean, because then it wasn't the Cardinals are the one that really wanted Fetty, so it was like
right. And then I stick with the Cardinals, and then I handled the Kopech situation separately.
The Cardinals didn't want to trade their top prospects, though. That's the reality. So you weren't going to get the prospects you like from them either. So it's like, I mean, Miguel Vargas is not some nobody. He was a top prospect in baseball last year. Like,
Yeah, but I think you have to read a little bit more into the philosophy on the Dodger side of it too, because that was at a time when they brought up Lux last year. You know, Lux got injured and Vargas was brought up presumably to be the second, third baseman, and then they realized that, hey, he's not filling in second or third. We're gonna go throw him at first base. So his first base and DH, and he just wasn't adjusting. And then same thing happened with this year. They bring him back off of injury, and then he started off
Gonzo, who
solid
plays second and third base for the Dodgers
3 days. He started solid for 3 days, and then just collapsed again. So I mean, yeah, he's still only 24 years old. So you're still, taking a flyer, on the risk of that. But at the end of the day, I'm not entirely sold on like that's not the guy I'm focusing on in a deal like this. So
yeah, I get it. I think that there was, I hear you for sure, and I think like I said, I think there was a player missing from the Cardinals side of this, but I don't see, like, no matter who that player was,
because it's a 3-team deal. Now we're looking lower at the Cardinals system, trying to fill in.
Okay, so let's say it's the Dodgers. Who are you on from the Dodgers here that makes you feel like great about this deal?
So if I had to start off with removing Vargas out of the picture,
but that's not the situation. The Dodgers were gonna move, somebody who's big league ready that they don't have a spot for, and the White Sox take a buy low chance on a guy that was looking like a major league regular last year. So it's like I get it. I understand the perspective, but like, no, they didn't want to move one of their top guys.
He wasn't major league. I don't think he was major league ready.
I think
prove himself.
He wasn't quite ready last year, exactly. And this year he's looked a lot better.
I don't even see that being better though.
This is the issue I had, because last year the Dodgers were rather have Max Muncy play second and third base over Miguel Vargas. Like, if Mookie Betts wasn't hurt this year, Gavin Lux probably wouldn't be in the lineup. Like, the Dodgers only go with youth when it's time for the injury bug to bite. And I don't have a problem with that, because at the end of the day, you're getting at bats for a competitive team in a win now mode. But at the same time, we can't just assume that Miguel Vargas was going to command any position on the infield, considering they had payroll in front of them. Oh, and by the way, they inked Freddie Freeman at first base, with a plethora of guys in the outfield who are older and got more.
Dodgers are not. They're not in the point of developing again. Every team's in a different situation. Vargas was not going to get the break that he needed. He's in the right system in order for him to become a big league player every single day. I think that was the best thing that could happen to his career, just because playing time in the Dodgers is hard to come by, because again, they're playing for 7 games in October. They're World Series or nothing. So sometimes you need that sort of break in order for your career to advance. And again, this is where development, we know that he's a AAA guy, that he's been able to dominate in AAA. How is he going to develop in the big leagues? I want to see him in the lineup every day. Left field, DH, second base, first base, third base, wherever he's at, I want to see him get the at-bats. That's just what I think that the young man deserves. But I think when you look at the guy in AAA, it's a guy that is big league ready. So they're either going to develop him into an everyday big league guy, or he'll be a utility guy. But he is better than AAA. I know that for a fact already. So I think he's already made that jump. There's guys that might get stuck before then. But it's going to be interesting. We're going to be talking a lot about prospects, and what I like about this is I don't think that you need to rely on a couple guys having to make it. There's a lot more depth, which is great for future trades or putting pressure on other guys to play the position. And that's something that, in the White Sox, I'm just going to say this, they're very open to guys playing winter ball. We've talked to them about a couple guys, and they've supported us 100%, saying we want them to play. If you need us to push them, we would gladly do so. Kind of add pressure to their agents that we want them from the development standpoint. So from that side of the house, they're at least being more open-minded to developing guys and letting them, go play in other leagues and get more at bats. So that's promising, because at the end of the day, that's what you need with prospects. Is they're like little plants. You got to water them and see who can grow and be a great plant and who's going to become a superstar, because we really don't know who's going to be the superstar. For all we know, it could be Vargas at the end of the day.
And just like that wraps our trade deadline talk.
We're doing the other ones, Matt, briefly.
You said the
one. You can wrap it too. The other small trades. You want to hear about some of those guys?
Oh yeah. Let's
make you a little less depressed, Gonzo.
Let's start with DeYoung.
I'll give you a little hope for some of these guys. This one's pretty minimal. Gerald Rosado is a 22-year-old reliever in single A is not going to be anything crazy. Getting anything for DeYoung's a plus. Literally getting a warm body for DeYoung's a plus. He meant nothing to the future. 1-year deal, minimal vet signing, right? Like he's been good. 1.85 ERA in single A this year with a good amount of strikeouts for his stuff. He probably could go straight to high A. I think he should go straight to Winston. He might go to Canny for now, but I think he should go to Winston pretty immediately. This is a guy who you should push through the system at 22 years old. He's got a pretty good arsenal of stuff. I've only seen a few videos on him. It's not easiest to dig up single A footage for a reliever, but his stuff looks pretty nice. The numbers are really good. Get him to high A, see what happens, push him through the system, maybe even give him some double A innings at the end of the year. Yeah, it's an arm.
That's an arm. And
we'll take it.
Oh wait.
And then the other two were I can just run these. Yeah, the Eloy deal. I mean, getting rid of Eloy, right, guys? Like, I hope none of you disagree with this. Getting off that contract and not having to pay his buyout at the end of the year is a massive win. I mean, literally, that's if nothing else, like that. It was time. It was just time. Like, I have nothing against Eloy. I'm not gonna be one of those people that's just hating on him as a person. Like, I'm not that person. But like, nothing against him at all. It was time to move on. End of the chapter. Let's do it. They got off a contract and they got a reliever who, like, it's not nothing. Trey McGough is a left-handed reliever with an ERA under 2 in AAA this year. He's an older guy, 24th round pick from 5 years back. Right? Like not a prospect, right? But like this guy could go in the White Sox bullpen tomorrow and be better than half the guys out there. So frankly, I getting anything and getting a guy who actually will be in the bullpen down the stretch this year, he should get a call up pretty soon, I think. I mean, he's been good enough to deserve a call up in the near future to the big leagues, right? So getting a guy who can go in the bullpen and be something, give innings at all for Eloy and not having to pay his buyout at the end of the year, massive win on this front.
By the way, best move that they were able to pull off, other than maybe the Tommy Pham one, because Eloy. Well, I'm saying no, because Eloy, if Eloy had been scorching and playing amazingly, and putting up the numbers, that's a very easy move. But being able to move a guy that doesn't run or play defense to just
with a $3 million buyout,
with a $3 million buyout, which that team has to pick it up. Meaning,
no, they're going to pay it. Yeah,
they're going to have to pay it. So they're either hoping that he catches fire.
They're not. Either way, they're declining.
Yeah, they're going to decline it. So it was so the fact that you're getting I was surprised how close that the player they gave was so close to the big leagues. I thought that if that move was made, it would have been for like a super young kid, that you're just like throwing a body out there. But the fact that you threw somebody that could be in the big leagues in the next, for the next 2 years and kind of fight his way into a bullpen spot, I thought it was a huge win because I didn't think Eloy was going to be able to get moved. I didn't think nobody was going to take the contract with the $3 million buyout, just because, not because Eloy's bad. It's just he's injury prone. He doesn't run, can't come off the bench running. He's not hitting, so the power's not there. So it's very limited on what he can do from like coming off the bench and how a manager can use him. So I give Chris Getz and the White Sox a lot of props for being able to pull that move off.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the next one was also good. I really like the Tanner Banks move, honestly. I mean, Banks is a guy who was sneakily one of the better arms in this roster, as crazy as that sounds. His expected stats are really good. His off speed has played up really well this year. And Tanner Banks is a guy that's a crazy career arc, a guy that didn't debut till he was like 27 or something, right? And like turning him as a relief pitcher into a guy that signed for over $2 million out of Venezuela 2 years ago is pretty crazy, right? Like this is not just like Bergolla hasn't been great, but William Bergolla, for people listening, second base, infield prospect, left-handed hitter, 19-year-old, already in high A at 19 years old, right? So this is a guy that's been moved quickly by the Phillies because he was a really high-end signing. In rookie ball last year, he kind of struggled and has actually ticked up in the right direction this year in high A, which, for a 19-year-old in high A, left-handed hitter, super contact oriented, a lot of speed, 18 stolen bases already in 67 games this year, a good amount of doubles, pretty good on base skills. He's getting on base. He's walking at a good clip, walks almost as much as he struck out this year, right? So this is a guy in Bergolla for Tanner Banks, right? Like for a relief pitcher that's like 30 years old and really, no relevance to the future of the White Sox, getting another 19-year-old to add to the lower levels of the system and just develop and see what happens. Like I am all for that. I thought this was actually one of the better, if not the best move of the deadline from the White Sox.
I actually totally disagree with the whole Eloy situation. I believe that Jerry got away too easily with getting rid of this contract, and with all the cash considerations he got for the past couple of years, he should have easily been able to pay this contract.
Oh man,
You're a
you gotta
sick pig, Gonzo.
you gotta get a little more. You gotta get a little more positive sometimes, Gonzo. Man, this
He
is
has to go
I
touch
feel
grass.
for you.
Literally go touch grass.
I swear, if I see one more cash consideration in these deals, I'm going to be flipping.
But
All right.
my point being about the second day of the deadline, because the deadline day, the Fetty trade was day before, right? And then day of the deadline, you're going into the deadline. I kind of got the vibe that morning that the Crochet deal wasn't happening during deadline day yesterday. And here I am, I'm going through every single trade. I'm posting about it. I'm writing about it, whatever. Like turning 3 guys that meant nothing into anything was a win. Like at the end of the day, I'm like, I get being upset about the Fetty trade, but like DeYoung and Banks and Eloy were absolutely nothing. All 3 of those guys mean literally nothing to the future. And you got a 19-year-old infielder, a 22-year-old relief pitcher, and a 26-year-old relief pitcher who could be in the bullpen tomorrow. So in my eyes, the actual 3 trades made on the deadline, yes, like the deadline as a whole looks underwhelming because you didn't get quite enough value for Fetty and you didn't actually swing one of the big trades. But you flipped 3 guys that meant nothing into 3 actual prospects, somewhat prospects, right?
They didn't mean nothing. Those contracts meant everything to Jerry. So,
of course. But
so at the end of the day, you got rid of money off of Jerry's hands and you layered your system. So,
yeah,
kudos.
And like one of the things, like just to, I don't want to keep you guys here too long, but like one of the things that you can look at now, like with Eloy's contract offloaded, nobody was taking Moncada, right? But like Moncada's going to get declined at the end of the year. They're going to have to pay the $5 million, which sucks, but it is what it is. Move on. I'm pretty sure, like looking at the payroll and salary going into next year, not including the arbitration guys, right? Like a lot of guys will stick around and be under arbitration for, $1 million, $2 million, whatever. There's a total of $38 million committed on the books next year. Again, we know Jerry's going to cut payroll and he's not going to spend all that excess money, right? Like, because obviously he's not going to spend all that excess money. At the same time, you're now in a situation where you're literally only financially committed to Luis Robert, who might get traded still, and Andrew Benintendi are the only 2 significant contract commitments moving forward. This team is in a spot right now where the rest of this season, my biggest thing about the deadline, like the deadline success to me will be even more, it'll feel even better to me as a deadline if they just start DFAing guys. Because right now we're looking at a roster with like 8 guys who have 0 business being on the roster anymore. Cut ties. Like if you couldn't get anything on the deadline for, Brebbia, Flexen, etc., all of these other guys, just goodbye. Like we're done. Like this team is not winning anything. Let's flip the script. There should be all these young pitchers. I mean, Birmingham and Charlotte are just in the starting rotation and the bullpen are just filled with actually solid, exciting young pitchers. The entire pitching staff, starting rotation and bullpen, aside from Crochet, should be rookies. Literally the entire pitching staff. I'm not kidding. Like that sounds drastic, but like it should all be overturned. There's no reason. So, I think it's exciting looking forward to me because I'm ready to see some of these prospects. And I think that getting rid of, some of the contracts at the deadline was good. And now just DFA a bunch of these other guys.
Right. Let's see Eater, Bush, and Adams ASAP.
Yes,
but we're
100%.
going to picks to click as we wrap the show up. Ozzie Guillen Jr. got his second victory of the season, and it's 5-5-2.
I'm going to go
on the
quickly.
standings. Yep. Go ahead. You
finally got to win Vargas.
Yep.
I'm going with Vargas.
I like that selection. Jay, I'm going to let you go, and then myself. Go ahead.
Give me Benintendi right now, looking like the best hitter in the lineup.
Awesome.
Yeah, it sucks, Eli. It sucks.
It's not fun.
Shoot, what am I going to go with?
I'm not picking, but I'd go with Brooks Baldwin if I was, because I think he's going to start turning it up.
Oh, I'm going to go with Jay's cousin. Or no, not Jay's cousin. I'm going to go with Sosa, actually.
He's not on the team. He's still on the team.
He's back. Yeah, he's back.
He's back.
Okay.
Hopefully, that's the other thing with this lineup right now. They got Vargas, Sosa, Fletcher, all these guys, Baldwin, right? They should be playing every day, man. I do not need to see Nicky Lopez. I do not need to see Corey Yolks. Like, come on now. I mean, those guys, that's a big one for sure. That's this next 2 months, we got to see nothing but the youngsters. That's the biggest thing for me, that I will feel good about the deadline. I will feel good about the rest of the season if we just see nothing but the youngsters.
Ooh, you're going to make me regret not picking Brooks Baldwin.
Hopefully, I hope so. I really love Baldwin. I think he's a great player. I just think it's going to take some time, right? He's been pushed super aggressively, playing only 8 AAA games, and then coming up is obviously an aggressive promotion, taking advantage of the season he's having right now in the minors. But like, I think we're gonna see some good flashes for sure in the next month or two from me.
I actually in Gonzo's league, I got him in Dynasty, and what I like about him is, so I got an affinity for switch hitters, and he's already athletic as hell, and he showcased the power in AAA. So I just got to make sure, like as an owner, make sure that if I'm losing a week, it can't be on Brooks Baldwin's behalf.
Yeah.
Play matchups, you know what I'm saying? Watch his at bats every day. Watch the swings he's taking, the pitches he's taking. But I hope I don't lose because I didn't pick Brooks Baldwin.
So, as a reminder, everyone in the chat, OJ's going to Vargas. Jay's going with Andrew Benintendi, who hit a home run recently. And I am going to go with Lenny Sosa. And those are our picks to click for the week. Or we don't need to go through the schedule because they've already lost 17 in a row.
I don't know when we're going to win a game.
Yeah, I don't even want to predict it.
I got the Cubs series that's my prediction. If you're curious, that's the next Thursday, I believe, or next Wednesday, Thursday or Friday, something like that.
I like that question.
Just because I don't like the Cubs.
KJ.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I'll agree with that. That'll suck though, because we got a hefty amount of games in between that series. So we could get slacked up until the crosstown.
So Jay, it is now time for shout outs. Before shout outs though, I do gotta say we gotta at some point convince Elijah to come in our fantasy baseball league so we can beat him up a little bit.
Might have to.
Yeah, it's $50 Dynasty, so
might have to do it. That'd be fun.
We might have to start replacing people that keep bitching.
That's because you're a dictator. You're a Fantrax dictator.
I gotta be a dictator. When people start bitching, I start dictating. It's how life
sure
is.
It ain't the other way around.
It's just true Markism.
You like Fantrax, Elijah?
I love Fantrax. I'm on there all the time for my Dynasty.
It's been crashing the last.
It has been tweaking lately for sure, but I think it's the best way to do fantasy. If you're gonna really get into it for the knowledge, for the information on there and the prospect stuff, it's definitely the best option.
Yeah, that's the only problem I have is just like the overall operation of the app.
It is glitchy. It is glitchy for sure.
But it's a lot going on. It's a lot of data to keep track of. So I hear you.
So shout outs. Elijah, I'm not sure if I think this is your first rodeo with us going through the full show. So shout outs, self-explanatory. Give us a little shout out of anyone in your life or anything. Even also just tell us what you got coming up as well. We'd like to hear upcoming stuff. Give us a little spiel of yourself for future Sox, just baseball media, everything you got going on. I'll let you start off.
I'll kick it off. Nothing too crazy. I'm gonna be heading down to Charlotte and Kannapolis in 2 weeks here on the East Coast. So I'm gonna be talking to a lot of the prospects live in person, doing some interviews. Hopefully, get some really good content out there. So that should be pretty hype. It's been fun. I've definitely been doing a lot of deadline work and everything, but I'm really pumped to take a week to travel out there and just watch some games live. All the minor league guys. Hopefully, gonna have some interviews. George Walkow, Colson Montgomery, a bunch of these guys, all the big names for sure. So that's the exciting thing coming up for me. I'm pretty pumped. I'm excited. I'm doing these draft pick interviews too. So I've already interviewed 5 of the 20 draft picks from this past class, and I've got a bunch more lined up. So check out the Future Sox podcast feed, YouTube, all that stuff. I'm talking to these guys. I'm not like Gonzo. I try to keep it positive for the most part. So I'm ready for the future. I'm feeling good about some of the farm system right now, and I'm excited to continue to talk to all these players because it's really fun just getting to hear development and stories and all this stuff. I mean, there's some crazy stories among this draft class with guys. So I appreciate you guys talking. It's always fun, and I'm just looking forward to more baseball. Really.
Usually I'm optimistic, but when my expectations were this high and then they just collapsed, then now
that's your problem, though.
Now you get to see the after effects because I put my expectations too high. Jay, go ahead.
Well, got to give a shout out to Asia once again. She destroyed another I think it was like 4 cookie orders in a span of 7 days. Like it's just some crazy fucking metric. It's almost like a guy throwing 3 complete games in a month, like every turn in his rotation. So shout out to you, Asia. You've been putting in the work. Also got to give a shout out to Danville's finest, Chucky Robinson, because I don't like to get into the demographics of baseball, but being a black catcher is rare. And Chucky Robinson is digging in the box for White Sox. He's 2 for 11 right now. No numbers to laud at, but going back through the history of the game and seeing that they're already, I'm not going to say pushing the black shortstop out, but there's a limited amount left. Like,
Jay, who was the last black Hall of Fame catcher?
Roy Campanella, maybe? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I had to ask the question because you were going down that road.
No, but that's what I'm
going to
saying.
be blunt. Like, we need bluntness.
Yeah, but I mean, before Chucky Robinson, all Major League Baseball gave me was Charles Johnson. Okay, seriously. Like, I understand that it's been a whirlwind. You took the year off last year after you got called up by Cincinnati, but take advantage of the opportunities you have right now. Like, there are people at home that are very proud of you, Chucky. Like, literally, me and him share the same birthday, December 14th. I'm 2 years older than him. And it's crazy because there was never, ever a realm where I gave a White Sox player a shout out in 2 years of recording this show. And I was proud to have Chucky Robinson just in a White Sox uniform, just for the legacy of the game. You know, so shout out to you, Chucky. Keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully you find a little bit more offensive success.
Yeah, no, first I'm going to give shout out to Elijah for joining us tonight.
The best.
Yes, we needed a thorough breakdown on trade deadline. We didn't even get to the draft class with Elijah. We did our own last week, but I was thinking maybe we should bring Elijah. We should bring you back on later in the
anytime, man.
Later in August, early September, once we start seeing maybe some of these guys hit some pro ball, maybe potential there.
Yeah.
We have a whole second half here to talk prospects. So we're going to bring you on definitely later to talk about some of these guys. Maybe they show flashes or for us early on, get our hopes back up again. But
get
also
your hopes back up.
Yeah. Gonzo has had it rough this deadline.
Third person.
Yeah. I got to thank everyone in the chat. Juan, it's nice seeing you. I know you got a busy schedule. Appreciate you for being in the chat. Joe, Melvin, I haven't seen Melvin at all yet. And
KG, you make me sick.
Thanks, Melvin. We'll get to KG in a little bit. Kaiser, who else we got here in the chat? Vince is in the chat as well. Thanks, Vince. Appreciate you.
Why is this profile picture like that?
Don't worry about Green Bay. We don't need to worry about Green Bay.
You put it on the screen.
I know. I'm sorry. I apologize to everybody. Ray the Barber, thanks, boss. We appreciate you for coming back on. And KG, appreciate you, boss. Also, shout out my girlfriend, my one and only. She's taking her finals right now, and I'm a distractor, so I got to wrap this up shortly. I got to shout out the John's Automotive shop out here by me because I had a water pump start leaking last week, and it was 90+ degrees out, and the blower was not blowing any air in my vehicle. No AC coming out. Gonzo was cooking for 20 minutes coming from the border.
Ooh, like that smell.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. And then today, so I got the car taken care of, but then today leaving work, the car wasn't starting. I was at work for an hour, and then it finally just out of nowhere when I saw a flicker of hope out of the push button, and I said, I'm getting that, and I hit it, and it started without struggle, and I'm like, okay. So I've had 2 intermediate things happen this week, happen out of nowhere, and I think it was just heat. I don't know what it was. I'm not going to go take it to the dealer either because, like I said, it was intermediate. Car's working. Jay's looking at me because I know that with your role of line of work, I'm not sure if I'm doing the best of things, but I'm not going to be wasting money at guessing either.
I'm glad you're home safe.
Yes, Gonzo's home safe, but I'm giving a shout out to all the people that take care of Gonzo and his fusion out here. That's all I got for shout outs. Oh, shout out to that's why I forgot. Dylan Cease, no hitter.
Yeah, good one. What a guy.
Finally.
Dylan Cease, if you guys are curious, is like literally one of the nicest dudes in all of baseball. Like he like genuinely just like everything you can imagine about him being cool is like totally true. He's great.
They had no chance. They had no fucking chance that day. I watched that. And I was like, wow. Because it wasn't like it wasn't like it didn't come with turbulence. He walked a couple guys, missed a couple spots, but in its entirety, you're looking at these poor saps, these 9 guys, and was like, fuck, you're gonna make history today.
Yeah.
Be ready.
That was awesome.
It was tough watching my boy James Wood having to go up against him in that performance, and I needed stats out of him. Fantasy. It's all good though. It's all good. I won anyways. So
here we go.
With that being said, from Elijah, from Jay, from Gonzo, myself, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in and watching The Blackout.